Greetings once again.
Wow.
We're very happy to have you with us. And let's mute our mics until we're called upon so that we can be able to go uninterrupted and to be able to have this very candid, very open and intimate discussion. We're very happy to have all of you that are joining with us today and more to arrive soon. We always appreciate those that have the time to be able to pull up to GatherVerse and have a conversation. The thematic of this event so far, especially with day one, has been rather intimate, and I suspect we're about to take it there now. We have two gentlemen in particular that are with us at this meaningful discussion. When we're talking about the meaning of human connection in the spatial intelligence era, we have two leaders in the world that are doing incredible things, both Nick Van Breda, who does so much in the EU when it comes to community centralization. He's been a community figure and leader when it comes to technology for many years, whom I've been really happy to be connected with and know. And likewise, in complementary fashion, we have William Jackson, who's been on a journey, who's been traveling quite literally around the world, visiting different communities, introducing so many different people, so many different environments to technologies that they've never even had access to and that they've never used before, both him and his wife. They're doing really pilgrim work. They're really doing servants work. And we're so happy to have both of you today. But before we continue and to go on with the questions that we have, I want us to be able to begin with who you are. Introduce yourself, please, in your own fashion, and also let us know, why did you show up today? And we'll begin with who's to my next is Nick.
Yes, hello, I'm Nick van Breda. I'm based in the Netherlands. And I've been in a few earlier GatherVerse meetings. I've been speaking about XR and the development of XR in education. And yeah, I liked this topic of today very much. So I really wanted to show up because I think with today's technology can hard sync to topics much better. For example, in the classroom where we cannot really create the context that we want. The context of the learning environment is very hard to create in the classroom. But with the new technologies, also with AI and generating videos of pictures of yourself and everything, you can really rethink how digital humans, how your digital identity will take shape in the next years. And yeah, the next generation of course is already far ahead of me, being 32. So I'm really eager to learn and discuss more and dream out loud about this topic.
Thank you, Nick. We're very happy to have you here, and might we dream a little bit with you today?
Thank you.
William, we're very happy to have you. Please.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Is my sound good?
Sound great.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this great gathering. It's wonderful to see Nick. I've heard a lot of great things about you all the way here in Jacksonville, Florida, where my wife and I and our family are located. And thank you once again, Christopher, for this opportunity to speak and share and learn. I am a retired educator of 33 years. Again, I live in Jacksonville, Florida. And I am a STEAM teacher, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But since 2022, I should say, or 2021, the blending of metaverse, AI, VR, IoT, and all those other elements, because of the significance of blending those components to teach our young people for the careers of the future. And my wife and I's passion are preparing the young people, preparing students, youth, teens, young adults for what is to come and what is here now. It's always wonderful and a blessing to be a part of GatherVerse and sharing knowledge and resources and information, but also learning from all the experts and those passionate like us, and that we can continue to share in our not just local community here, but as you said, Christopher, we travel globally, teaching these elements to prepare youth and teens of the world to collaborate together and work together. So as you say, may our gather be well.
Yes, indeed. And thank you for that incredible introduction, William. Just the work that you're doing. I know that for a fact that servant leadership, work that we do that often will go unnoticed, it is appreciated by those who are directly affected the most. And I tell you what, there's a place in my heart for the work that both of you do. And I can really say that with a clear conscience and knowing that I've seen demonstrated with what you've both been able to do in bringing good information and bringing people together and really presenting people with opportunities that they may not be able to discover on their own. You both certainly are force multipliers in my book, and I'm very honored, and we're very honored to be able to gather with you in global community today. I want to take this to a different narrative. I'm going to talk with you both, and it'll be a little bit off script from our questions as we usually are, but we're also going to address some questions. But Nick, let's jump over to you when it comes to community, because community development is so central to what we focus on with GatherVerse. I think there's never been a better time for community and peer-to-peer human expression than there is now. Just when we see what we have with GatherVerse, and all of us have different groups that we're associated with, whether it's on platforms such as WhatsApp. Nick, you have a series of different groups that you have on there, and William, you're part of so many different groups, whether it's the GatherVerse community or whether it's the Black AI group, whether there's other different groups that we're part of, Metaverse Council that you're with, and so many other different organizations. What is, and this will be for both of you, but Nick, I want to really lean in. What is the importance in this world when we start thinking about virtual worlds and the virtual layer and environment? Why is community so important right now?
Now, if you talk about virtual worlds, especially, yeah, we started all doing social VR activities during the Corona pandemic. We couldn't really visit each other, and we figured out that this human connection was so important that a lot of youth, also in our schools, were quite depressed by not having human connections at all. Over a video connection is a different connection than having a spatial connection, and in person or in VR were the only ways of having this connection. So what happened is that we started organizing Burning Man in virtual reality. We started organizing Tomorrowland in a 3D world, and we started seeing that there is a big difference between consuming like a live stream, like we are here today, or meeting each other as an avatar in a virtual world. We really truly felt human connection in a virtual world, where all the biases that you had about age, about race, about skin color, about ethnicity, everything was out of a sudden gone. You could talk with anyone in anywhere around the world at any time that you wanted. So it started getting excited when you started doing dance parties with people from all over the world having different dance moves. And it's so super exciting to, in a headset, have a dance party where you actually feel that you're on a date with a girl. So that was so interesting and so intense for me that I always had the problem that my battery was low. So you were dancing, and out of a sudden you were out of the date because your battery ran out of battery, and yeah, you felt like, oh, I'm really disconnected now. If I tune in back 15 minutes later, I hope this lady is still there. That kind of feeling. So for me, the virtual world has been tremendous in impact. And today I'm actually cultivating on this experience on bringing social XR to the classroom. And for that, there's a different meaning for that. That's about context-rich education, and that's more about climate change today. We are working at the engineering department in the university, and we know there are schools in, for example, Ghana, that we can help out with our water knowledge in the Netherlands. And they have a lot of drought problems, so they need water engineers to help them out with their civil engineering questions. And we just donated 2 headsets to a school in Ghana. I gave a keynote in person there still, but can be done online, of course. But I gave 2 headsets to be able to exchange in work groups and study groups to set up group experiences, group exchanges, in which the case problems of Ghana can be solved together with our students, together with their students and our students. And I think there is a big potential of this technology. We will see that the context of the problem won't be an issue anymore, but we can have a hard relation with that problem because we can tune in with that context now very easily over a virtual world. And it can be in social AR or social VR as today's headset, like the Quest 3, offer both the opportunities. You can look through the eyes of the person and see where they are at. or you can be in a virtual world together where you're not distracted by anything, and you're very effectively working on a specific case. So yeah, that's my next step, setting that up for a long term to have education together with different schools, powered over a VR, a virtual world, powered over a VR connection, and then solve problems together with students that have no knowledge and students that have knowledge because of the country. We have a country where our water levels are very high, and so we have not the drought problem, but a flooding problem in the Netherlands. But we built water systems like dams and stuff for all the capital cities that are next to the ocean nowadays. But we cannot go there. It's too expensive for education to go there and stay there for a long time to solve the issues. But we can tune in now to let them get the knowledge to do it themselves, which is better for migration as well. So they can solve their issues and don't flee to another country because they cannot solve their own issues. So we think that's maybe a solution for the migration problem too.
Well, that's incredible, Nick, on so many different levels. You brought up the mentioning of the pandemic, and it's obviously all of us were impacted by it. And for those of us that have the gear and had the gear available, because it's very interesting, what you had is what you had, because supply chains were disrupted, and whatever access you had in your living room or in your closets when we were on lockdown, for many of us, for billions, that's pretty much what we rolled with. And I can distinctly remember I've probably spent more time in virtual spaces ever done in my whole entire life, during lockdown in particular. But I remember feeling so grateful and a real sense of deep community and ingressing into environments and really understanding I had so much time to study and work in those environments too and do different talks, if you will. But there was a real deep seated way of community. And as we continue to see this evolve, I'm happy to hear that you're able to, based on your early experiences, know with confidence that education could be rendered and distributed and taught within these virtual environments. And we'll get back to that in just a bit, Nick. But with William, I know you know a lot about this as well, with all the outreach that you're doing throughout the world. I know Nick just brought up Ghana, and I know there's work that you're doing, extraordinary work that you and your family are doing in Africa and elsewhere in the world. But I want to also bring this in and please draw it out with us that what does it mean with the work that you're doing and the sense of community and forming these relationships and doing the real outreach work that so many people I suspect would have the desire to do if they had the opportunity to go travel to different places around the world, a transmetropolitan and transcontinental, to be able to instill in others the opportunity of innovation and to bring some sense of extension of community and communication so that they can meet with people around the world and be even more connected in their communities. What has that been like for you?
It's interesting. The word community is being used so much now in the realms of working with groups internationally and globally. And as Nick was saying, you get an opportunity when you're working with a community, first of all, not to have any prejudgments about that community, but to go in and to provide a resource and ask, what do you need? What kind of help can we give you with the type of resources that we have, with the resources that are available? And interesting enough, a lot of conversation goes back to the isolation of the pandemic. So since we're more or less out of that situation, there's more open opportunities locally, nationally, and internationally to build community and work with people. And you get a perspective of, yes, I'm in the United States and I have access to all these tools and resources, but there's other people in the world that you can connect either remotely with Zoom or Teams or other applications. And then you feed in with virtual reality and augmented reality the ability to connect. But it's for the educational aspect, but it's also for the motivation to build business owners, to build entrepreneurs, to see on a global perspective what other people can use for technology. And here in the States, we kind of joke a lot about, well, we have ready access to technology so much that there is almost an afterthought of how can we use it for learning or how could we use it for business, because the goal in some cases is entertainment and gaming. Well, we must change our perspective to move from gaming to move from entertainment to how can we grow young business owners as it's being done in other countries. We've been teaching, my wife and I have been teaching in other groups in Nigeria with a group called Clever Minds Academy. And it's in Warri, Nigeria, and it's a primary school. So we've taught them AI, we taught them metaverse, we taught them IoT, we've taught them basic computer skills, but it's under the guidelines of what can we help you to do and how you can take that knowledge and better yourself. And their mindset is always their career that they want to be in the future is specifically centered around how they can help their community in a broader way, but also continentally, how they can help their continent of Africa. Similar situation in Uganda, where we work with a community called the WordPress community and WordCamp. WordCamps are global conferences. So we volunteer our time in most cases. And what can we do to help provide accessibility using technology? Because there are thousands, if not millions of people that cannot physically attend conferences. So we build metaverse sites for them to be able to attend the conference, but importantly, for them to contribute, because a lot of people want to contribute and share their knowledge. And as Nick was talking about in Ghana and other places that he's working with, the perspective is people are wanting this information, they want to connect, they want to collaborate, and they want to see how geographically in their area, what they need to do to improve their situation and circumstances and their families and their communities. So it's very powerful. Thank you.
It is, and I think about the connected world that we're in, where, as it's been said many times at different various GatherVerse events, that a lot of people in the world still have a difficult time accessing with broadband and connectivity and Wi-Fi, and that has definitely had some obstacles. And we know that there's a disbalance, Nick, around the world when it comes to access and when it comes to the deployment and the distribution of products that we may enjoy here in the West. If you look at the United States, if you look throughout the EU, UK, and other places where there's a lot of technology that we get. And at the same time, the level of AI that's been deployed, we know that some technology has been held up without Europe accessing it in many parts of what we're sitting here enjoying here in Silicon Valley. And so I think about that often when we talk about accessibility and who's accessing what when, because while we're going into iterations of the 5th or 6th version of a thing, let's say with AI, and it's becoming as it's become, that there's certain other places around the world in different settings where they're just now getting their hands on it for the very first time. And it seems to me with that particular notion that there are going to be leaders such as you and William that really, it almost necessitates, doesn't it, that you become users of this technology, you become mentors, community developers of it, but now you're finding yourselves using it for a number of different reasons to catch people up and to be able to catch up to game speed, to educate the world. And whether I don't know if you've ever thought that you would find yourself in this position, but I want to get squarely back to the topic at hand of the meaning of human connection in the spatial intelligence era, because we now know that the XR, if you will, or immersive installations that we all were dealing with, both Nick and William, that we were experiencing, they're not the same that they were in the pandemic moving forward. And we know that it's getting ready to be rather dramatically different. I want to capture your thoughts, Nick, on what does this mean when we look at this new, fresh relationship that science is pairing together with XR and AI. And we've now had time to digest, but I'd like to know what it means to you, technically and for business, but moreover, what does it mean for human connection and relationships?
I feel like the corona pandemic, XR has been growing a lot. There are a lot of some people that VR headsets at home, like 20 million people, and you saw that the platforms that were hosting it, like platforms that were hosted by Mozilla, Firefox, platform that were hosted by Microsoft, like AltSpace and Mozilla Hubs, those platforms were actually community creators. They were creative tools everyone could have access to, everyone could create in, and those tools out of a sudden stopped. And I think a lot of people that were in that community, the creator community, felt very disappointed by those brands. even though if they said like it's €10 a month, they would probably pay that to keep that relationship, that community that they had online intact. But out of a sudden, they're all their people they met and saw weekly on a weekly basis in those virtual worlds. They were gone. They were not there anymore. The platform was out. Sorry for the loud audio out behind me.
I
But
feel like we've done
those
this fine. We've had events where people I felt like they've had disco parties in the background.
okay.
After 26
Yeah.
summits, you kind of get used to the different environments. Please, Nick, you're good.
Yeah, so these platforms are out of a sudden gone, and out of a sudden there were only paid platforms left, or some were still free to use, but they were unknown by people. So yeah, I think a lot of the community set things up for themselves, for their own local community, because they knew how to use Unity out of a sudden, because they built worlds with Unity for VR chat, for example. Yeah, they stepped from Altspace into VR chat, or from Mozilla Hubs to Spatial, or Frame VR. So they found a way to keep doing what they're doing in their creative space, but the community part is very hard. So these platforms, they guided people with events to get people on board with event platforms and event tools. And out of a sudden, there was no event tool anymore. There were no tools anymore for event managers to get people together, to let them follow you in the virtual space and such things, and have a microphone for one person and not for the rest of the group. These tools, they were very, very important for me to run a community in Altspace, to run a community in Mozilla Hubs, and
Right.
to help schools get started with setting up social VR in the classroom. Mozilla Hubs was my tool to go to, for example. And now it's very hard. I have to reconvince people that there is an open source world out there, or there is a open to use, accessible platform out there that you can use on a mobile phone and on a laptop and on a VR headset. Because those other platforms, they are just not as accessible, and they are very hard to get people into, like getting people from WhatsApp into another platform, like another social media platform. We tried during the time that we know that Facebook bought WhatsApp, and we didn't know what privacy was going to do, but we couldn't get people on Telegram or Signal. A few, some early adopters, but the rest stayed still in the same platform. And out of a sudden, those platforms fell away. So those people and those connections, the communities, also dropped in activity and in coming together that often. So I'm very disappointed by Microsoft and by Mozilla Firefox. I cannot say how sad I was when the time came that they stopped out of a sudden, because they were my my go-to platforms for daily events, and we have made a lot of impact in those.
Let me run a follow up on that, because I know there's more to share, and William will be with you too. I know you have a lot to unpack with us as well on this. But Nick, let's talk about that for a second, because as I'm listening, and those that are not familiar, that a virtual world, I mean, they've been around for some time, and to the point where we've seen them innovated. We spent a lot of time. People built massive communities in them, and we've now seen them sunset, right? And
Yes.
I've always felt like these are very prototypical. In fact, I can distinctly remember being around people like Gavin Wilhite in Rainbow Mansion, and Cupertino, who's one of the founders of Altspace, when he was building that before it went acquisition to Microsoft, and innovators like Thematic Bruce, who's an incredible innovator himself, building that. And now we've come full circle, and it's like there was a confidence of trust that these platforms would be here. It's almost like if someone goes into LinkedIn or Facebook and they turn off the lights and say, we're done. You've invested a lot of time in that. My question to you is what does that necessitate now that we know that some platforms can't afford to keep the lights on in these virtual environments in the world? Does this mean with open source that it allows us an opportunity to keep the lights on extensive outside the auspices of corporations? What would you like to see done with that?
Yeah, I see with the Mozilla Foundation that is a movement starting. The creators are powering up a foundation to be able to get Mozilla Hubs back online for everyone to create free virtual worlds and metaverse, if I may say. So I see there are communities coming up, but for example, with Google Tiltbrush, she saw that they open sourced it and people started working and building it and getting it online quickly, like OpenBrush and Multibrush started out. And yeah, sorry to say, but Multibrush turned into a paid platform, unfortunately. But OpenBrush is still there for us, and we can still do the same stuff that we did in TiltBrush. But for Microsoft, I'd never given these tools to the open source community, even though they own GitHub. They could have done that, and the community would have definitely make it possible to make it affordable or open for everyone to keep using it. So it's a business strategy that I'm not really a fan of. Now, out of a sudden, they update Microsoft and you cannot use your VR headset from Microsoft anymore, like the HP Reverb. Out of a sudden, they don't work anymore. I don't know what this company is doing. They throw out one of the most important communities if you talk about creating tools that could be a very successful business applications for themselves in the future. They just throw them out and didn't do any follow-up or aftercare. So yeah, I'm very mad at them. Yeah, and I'm not really happy
I think it
how
would
it's
be
turning
great.
out.
I think it would be great, Nick, if there was people such as yourself, and I can and this audience means a lot coming from Nick. Just if you would understand the magnitude of his involvement with different communities, not just online, but the hacker communities that are out there on the hacker level and things like that. You know, community matters in the development and the building of technology. Because William, and we'll come over to you now, because when we arrive together, even with GatherVerse, we arrive in a way it's almost a hive mind of exploration. And a lot of our innovations are able to go through a natural filter and refinement of practice. And at the same time, the magnitude of it is that we're able, even now, our predecessors didn't have this in the 80s, 70s, and the 60s, and the 90s, the early 2000s. They didn't have this. I would never have probably known Nick or yourself or people from the other side of, we would usually know people that we grew up with here in 60 miles out. But William, I have a question for
Yes.
you about this.
I'm sorry to disturb, but my battery is running low. It's so stupid, but I am probably tuning out in a few seconds. Sorry for that.
Don't worry about it, Nick. If you could find a charger, harden with us, and we can ride out to the sunset.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
The thing is when we start to look at this, William, when we start to look at this opportunity that we find ourselves in, it seems to me that we are at a place where, with this disbalance when it comes to virtual worlds, when it comes to XR, let's go further into this sojourn that you're in. I want to lean in together, because a lot of people don't realize what it takes to even build out these platforms, let alone distribute them, especially with new tech on the scene.
Right.
You, for whatever reason, and I want to know that reason, we want to know that reason, you've found yourself in a situation where you saw fit to almost begin a pilgrimage of sorts,
Right.
an exploration in saying, we know that there are people out there that have never even held a VR headset in their hands.
Right.
And you know what it's like with their expression of experience now, when you've placed a VR headset, when you've taught them virtual environments in the virtual layer. Why did you do this?
Well, let me tell you a little story. Generation teacher. So my mother was a business teacher in Camden High School in Camden, New Jersey. And every time she had new technology brought into her classroom, she would have myself, my brother, and my sister set it up, make sure it was working before her students had a chance to use it. So we always give respect to our parents and grandparents, because when they are teaching us new things at that time, we don't know the impact on it for the future. And my mother was so dedicated, and my dad, into their profession. They would mentor kids after school. They would take the time to take us to conferences, which we still do today when possible. So taking what was taught by my parents, and as an adult during the course of my educational career, and I'll be transparent, I started out as a health and physical education teacher. I taught PE for 15 years, but I love technology. I wanted to bring it into what I was doing as a PE teacher. and just expanding from there and learning as much as possible. And the key is to learn as much as possible, not just to help yourself, but to help others. And my concept from that was, and I always try to uplift HBCU institutions. I'm a graduate of South Carolina State University, and we were always taught, no matter what you learn, find someone to share it with. So you have two aspects, my parents and my university, and blending those concepts, because seeing what you did not have in the past, but what you have access to today is so powerful. And knowing that there are still people, young people, adults, seniors that still don't have access or know how to use technology is not a benefit for themselves or their communities, because you can use that technology, as we're doing now, to reach globally, to communicate with so many people. And we can share so much information and build communities almost instantly with what we're doing. As you and Nick were talking, I wrote down some notes, and one of them was AltSpace VR. My wife and I, we cut our teeth on AltSpace VR with Stefan. We used to go to church in AltSpace VR every Sunday, and meeting people all over the world and them inviting us into their art communities, their educational communities, their communities such as the World Metaverse Council that we're a part of, to participate, learn, and share our knowledge is key, is important, because we have to take the time to learn and share. When we found out about GatherVerse, we were so excited that there was another community that we could learn from and extrapolate this information and share it other places, that we are now in a way where wherever we go, whether it's WordPress, whether it's a conference, whether it's a speaking engagement, we share with those people that we're talking to, hey, this is what technology can do for you. This is what technology can help you do. Technology is a great equalizer. My blogging centers around how I can use AI to help me be a better writer. And it's so disconcerting to hear school districts in the United States blocking it from their students, when this is the perfect time to address reading, to address comprehension, to address creativity, to address innovation and imagination, because you have a tool now that kids could access, and I call them all kids, I'm sorry, on their phone, and teach them to be better readers, to be teach them to be better writers, and build communities that are positive. So from the past to the present to the future, we have to take advantage of all of these opportunities. And I'm glad Nick is back, because Nick, before you got on, I was talking about AltSpace VR, how my wife and I, we cut our teeth on AltSpace VR. And, and it wasn't just the attending the church aspect, but it was meeting people around the world, seeing different perspectives, but challenging ourselves to learn more, challenging ourselves to, oh, here's a new tech, how we can use it, how we can apply it, and how we can share it. Because the more you do that, the more opportunities you have to leave a legacy, to leave behind you trails of digital breadcrumbs. And I believe I heard, Chris, you say this one time before, earlier in the year, the digital breadcrumbs that people can follow and pick up those breadcrumbs and use them as nourishment to feed themselves knowledge to make themselves and their communities better.
I have a follow-up with that, William, and it's just extraordinary to hear this from you, because, candidly, I see you posting so much in our different communities, and I know how it feels. I really know how it feels to go and pick up a torch, and you look around you wonder where everybody's at. And this is very difficult work. It's always not supported in a way that you would imagine. Even with GatherVerse, putting this together, every single event, 26 major global summits, Nick, free. All of us do work that we don't expect people to pay. We do. The community management engagement is so difficult, I tell you what. And I'm going to ask a question for you, William, because the work that you're afforded to do with you and your wife, is also just another extraordinary human being, really. What are some of your biggest obstacles? What are the obstacles to go out there and to help others. There are obstacles to go out there to help people. What are some of those obstacles?
I think one of the obstacles, and I say this as a man of color, a Black man, is that I'm taken seriously in what I'm doing. This is not for intended to be for financial gain. We do have businesses that we run and that we manage. I made the decision to retire from education to be more accessible and available. So the content of culture is very key and very important, because all of us have a voice that should be shared in a way that builds others around us. And we have to see everyone as being valuable and important, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender, regardless of their social economic background. And when we're posting content, it's not on the realms of look at me, see what I'm doing, but it's on the realms of you can do this too. You can join with us. You can help us. If there's something specific you don't know what to do, but how to do, we may not know how, but we have people around us that we can connect you with. We have corporations or companies or individuals that you have access to, and that we can help each other. And being a teacher and educator, unfortunately, in the society today, we hear a lot about teachers not being respected, not being provided the resources in classrooms. Well, I know that from experience teaching a classroom of 45 students, 35 students, 25 students, technology skills that they've never been exposed to, but making it fun, making it creative, making it innovative, so that in their minds, their light bulb comes on and they're happy to know that their teacher took the time to learn and involve them in conferences and involve them in experiences outside of the realm of the classroom. But it's not just their Black teacher, it's their teacher, their educator, their mentor that's helping them as a community. And as a nation itself, we have to look at ourselves inside to make sure that we understand that everybody is valuable, everybody brings something to the table. That inclusivity is important, because we have to see how our communities can grow. We're only as strong as the weakest link or weakest community in our communities, and we have to reach back and bring them up. There's other stories I could share, so during this time, maybe I can.
And with the few minutes we have, and thank you for sharing that, William. It's heartfelt and it's well meant. Nick, we're picking it up back to you. We're moving forward now, whether any of us like it or not. We now know that the fidelity, I think part of the thematic of today, unbeknownst to us, is that we now know that there's been environments that are out there that we've ingressed to, we've developed and built communities, but some of those communities have let us down. Some of those communities have abandoned us. Some technologies that we adopt and subscribe to, they're no longer available on the shelves or a click away for purchase and available. Where are we moving forward, Nick, when it comes to the opportunity of community centralization in the virtual sphere, if you will? And what does this mean at the intersection of AI?
Yeah, I think AI will be having us in a virtual world very quickly, very easily in the future. So I think the creation of 3D models that's possible now in AI, for example, with 360 photos, you can quickly create a 360 photo of a context that you wish, upload it to Frame VR, if I may say, to a web VR portal, have that as a context, place 3D models in there that you let's create that via hyper AR, that you can turn buildings from prompts. You can create buildings from prompts. I think AI is going to help us a lot to get back our community space for more people than we ever could imagine. So having no tool set, skill set at hand, having no 3D model skills, having no software development skills at the moment is not an issue anymore, as more environments allow us to use AI. Even Copilot in Edge, the browser is now allowed in our whole university to use So yeah, okay, there are some schools that are blocking out some websites, some ChatGPT services or so, but there are so many tools now out there that you cannot block out all the tools. If you're thinking about generative AI, you can maybe summarize around 400 tools that are freely accessible for everyone, and 50 tools are paid. So they're outnumbering each other now. So I believe that these AI tools are going to have a lot of impact on community building. And you have a tool to create a world where you can come together, uh, place and time independent, so getting cultures together uh, quite easily by coming up with worlds that are creating a nice context, creating a safe space. I think that's the right word, creating a safe space for anyone, whether they're from the LGBT community or whether they are not being able to access over a headset and not having the economic, the means to buy a VR headset. They can very soon come together in web XR tools because those have been more and more open XR. So they have been opened up even for the Meta Quest. The protocols are open. They are sharing more and more tools, for example, the mixed reality tools out there that you can do your typing without a keyboard on your table. They are doing these research programs together with schools. So Meta is opening up that together with schools and all other tools like the pass-through, looking into the real world, creating AR models, creating mixed reality tools, like helping children do some vacuum cleaning. And that you see coins on the floor that you're thinking, oh, I'm doing Mario Kart, but I'm actually doing vacuum cleaning in my house. These kind of tools, giving them out there from hackathons. They are created out of hackathons and freely available and out to download. I see this community has grown only. And this community is happy that there is a platform still out there. Uh, for example, the Meta Quest, that they're developing new headsets every year instead of Microsoft saying, "No, we don't support any headsets anymore that we created. VR headsets, we don't support them." There are companies out there that do the opposite, and they are investing heavily to make sure that everyone can get access, like access to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and other tools. They are free to access and help people create communities and groups and interest groups. Whether you are from Africa, from Australia, from the Netherlands, this world citizenship is possible because of those tools becoming widely available. So world citizenship is, I think, the most important mindset to solve global problems. And we only can work on global problems if we open up our world to outside our own borders.
That's right.
So if we start working together with outside people, we don't believe in borders anymore because we have worked or gamed together with different cultures, and we don't have these biases anymore because they don't have to be educated by teachers that are radical right or something. They are there, we know, but because of the borderless internet, we have global citizenship from the start of using a video game where we are connected to all the countries in the world. And we don't maybe speak to them right away, but we type, we have a conversation together. And then the next step is that we have a team speak together in another game. And then the next step is that we do a school project together and so on. I really believe that we are at this moment very close to giving everyone the tool to create a metaverse world, whether it's in the existing platforms, VR, Chat, Rec Room, Horizon Worlds, or in new created AI platforms that are able to help us with coding, with GitHub Copilot or with Cloud or other tools that are helping us to create, anything from scratch with a prompt, with a speech, with an idea that you speak out. Yeah,
that's right. Nick, William, this concludes our talk. We could go well into the deep morning and late afternoon and evening. I will say this is that as I sit here with inspiration, there's two things, audience, that I would have you leave with is one, to follow them. Join them on your journey path. Let these two gentlemen know how they can be a value add to the extraordinary work that each of you are doing back at home in your respective countries, cities, continents. The other thing I will say is residually inspirational is that here you have two figures that give so much to community. Find ways to help support them, please, if you have it in your heart. If it's on your heart and mind, they give freely. I've seen this with my own eyes, and I've benefited from being in the company of both of them. And lastly, I'll say is we are heading into this world where platforms are dissipating and more are arriving. And we've never had this much access to building our own worlds. Why only walk around and ingress into the imagination of other people's environments when we could walk around in our own? And so I really appreciate the sentiments that have been expressed. We certainly do value you both, and our gather was well. And coming up for our next segment, we're bringing Andrea Camargo, who has a brilliant mind and a care for this planet, unlike most people that I know around the world. And we're about to talk about, while we have so much attention to the virtual layer, let's not forsake the material one. May our gather be well. And here we arrive